I want to welcome you to the Pro Mindset Podcast. The Pro Mindset Podcast is all about diving into the headspace that results in championship performance. High-performing athletes, winners, have this mental flow and have a positive headspace for their performances and success. Join me, Craig Domann, sports attorney and NFL agent, on this podcast. I will interview pro athletes, college athletes, football coaches, and sports personalities. Together, we can discover how you can get in the flow and have your own pro mindset. Hey, I want to welcome a special guest today, Brock Gutierrez, former client, dear friend, great family man, had a decade-long career in the NFL. And Brock, I want to welcome you to the show today.
Glad to be here, Craig.
All right, Brock.
That's a lot of nice things you had to say right there. I don't know if they're all true, but I'll take it.
Some of them are true. Okay, we won't tell them which ones aren't. To kind of get us out of the starting blocks, why don't you give us an update of what you're doing right now? Give us an overview of your family. I know you have a beautiful daughter that's in college as a freshman, so run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just said, my first child, 18. She's off to college. She goes to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, in the business school there. I've got a 12-year-old son, and him and I enjoy doing a lot of hunting and hanging out together. And I currently do the color. I'm the color analyst for my alma mater, Central Michigan University. Fire up chips, and I currently work in sales as well. So stay pretty busy and keep my hands close to the sport that I love, which is football.
Well, ironically, last night I was watching video football on YouTube, and it was going through the craziest plays in college football over the last couple of years, and it showed the Central Michigan last-second Hail Mary deflection or handoff pitch back to beat Oklahoma State. And
a little hook and ladder.
Yeah, so in your post-NFL career, you're probably most famous for your commentary in that game on that play.
Did you get to hear that? That was pretty funny.
That was awesome, man. You did the radio for that show, and I'm telling you, I've never heard a man more excited than you were on that play.
You need to listen to some more broadcasts because I get pretty dang wound up for every Central game, although last year specifically, it wasn't a whole lot to get excited about, but certainly bring a lot of excitement, and very, very happy to be doing Central games. It's proud to be a Chip.
Well, you know what? It gives you an opportunity to express your love for football without getting hit, without messing up your knees, and without having to practice every day.
Well, and more than that, too. I mean, everybody asks why you don't coach, and those guys work way too much. There's no way I'd want to coach. Those guys don't even know their kids, so for me, it's a great way to be involved in the sport, be around a sport I love and a team that I love, which is Central Michigan. So it works out pretty good, man. I enjoy it.
Okay, so let's go back to like roughly 1996 when you were, a captain at, actually 95, I guess. You were a captain at Central Michigan, senior. You came out of college. You went to the NFL as a free agent with the Cincinnati Bengals. What was it like? If you could go back in time, 23 years, I guess it's been, what was it, how daunting of a task was it to go into an NFL camp as an undrafted rookie when they drafted that particular year an offensive lineman with their first pick in the first round, their third rounder, and their seventh rounder?
I mean, I guess I really didn't know anything about it. So for me, it was just playing football. I had a chance to go play football. In my mind, I was just going to go do the best I could, and then why wouldn't there be any reason at all I wouldn't make the team? You don't really think about those things when you're that age, when you're, 22 years old and you're bulletproof and you've been, the best or at the top of, the talent on your team, every team you've ever played on. And I don't say that to be, I'm not trying to be not humble. It's kind of the way it was. But you've been playing football since you're in the fifth grade. Why wouldn't you? The next step is to go play at the next level. But looking back, that's pretty crazy, man. I really had no chance. I really had no chance to make the team.
You had no chance.
I had less than zero chance.
Yeah, and Paul Alexander was your offensive line coach for the Bengals, and he decided to keep 4 rookies on the active 53 that year.
I don't know if he decided, but that's what he was told he had to do, and man, that was we just didn't know any different. We didn't know any better, and looking back now, I mean, I think 3 of them, I dressed that first game, and I think the other 3 rookies started. It was crazy. Yeah, you know, we ended up, they fired the coach 6 games into the season. We ended up, 7-9, 1 game under 500, and it was just a great time. It was terrifying as I finally realized as training camp went on that you never think you don't belong, but you're like, man, I don't know, how the heck am I going to make this team? I just wanted to be there the next day, and then the next day, and I think that's kind of just the philosophy I took every single year I played. I just want to be here tomorrow. I just want to be in the room tomorrow when they start meetings. I don't want to get cut. So I don't know. It's weird. You're looking back. It's fun to look back and think about it and think, my God, you know. And then to hear everybody complain, you know, well, it's a numbers game and it's a this and it's a that. Yes, it is. But if you're good enough, you'll be one of the numbers that they keep, right?
Absolutely. Well, let's walk through. You played in the NFL for, was it 10 or 11 years?
10 years, 11 training camps.
Okay. So it's very rare for a guy to play in the NFL for a decade. You know, the average NFL player career length is 3.3 games. Everybody talks about 2.7 years, but it's really 3.3 games. So there's a lot of young men that make the 63. They're on the practice squad, but they never play in an NFL game.
Yeah, I know. It is crazy, and people don't realize that either. You know, they never really, until you see it and you see guys in college and everybody, and being in the business that I am now, and when I'm able to call games and people in the community, they say, well, so he'll play in the NFL, won't he? And it's like, you know, you really don't have any idea, and you don't want to lay that out every time you have that conversation. You don't want to explain it, but just being able to look at it, see everything happen over the course of, 20 years, man, it's such a small amount of time that you can play in the NFL. Whether you're good or not, it's a small amount of time.
Let's walk through your career, okay?
Okay, yeah.
You went to the Bengals, and so that I don't mess it up, you went from the Bengals to the Jags to the Niners to the Lions. Did I miss anybody?
Well, yeah, because, I went from the Bengals for 2 years, got cut for 6 weeks, went back to the Bengals for 2 weeks, got cut, went to the Jaguars practice squad for 10 days, and then got brought back to the Bengals in 98. So the Bengals cut me twice in 1998, and then I was there for 3 more years, 99, 2000, no, 4 more years, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. And then they cut me in June 1st of 2003, and that's when I went to San Francisco for 03, 04. And then all that staff was in Detroit, and then it brought me to Detroit for 05. So okay. Cincinnati cut me 3 times in my career, and I went back twice.
I know. Okay, so let's go back to, and you may not remember this because it's been a while, but what was it like to get cut?
It's pretty surreal, especially that day. The first time I got cut by Cincinnati, they told me they had drafted a guy in the 3rd round in 97. So my second year, they drafted a 3rd rounder to be the starter at center for the next decade. And in 1997, he didn't dress for a single game. He was inactive for 16 games. I played in a handful of games, 5 or 6 games in 97. And in 98, they had an open competition, and my old line coach told me the day of final cuts, you're good to go. I got home. My wife was on her way down to Cincinnati after the final cuts. We had moved into our condo. And they called me that evening and said they changed their mind. They're going with the other kid. So it was just all I had. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It wasn't even real. And you and I talked, and you told me to hang out in Cincinnati for a few days, which I did. And nothing happened. So I went home and had just gotten married, had just bought a house. So we went home and I just kept working out. And I ended up going back to Cincinnati, and I stayed there for quite a while afterwards and played. And when I got back after that point, after 1998, I played in every game for the next 7 years. Never missed a game after that. So, it's just one of those things. A lot of guys after that, it's hard. You just got to mentally stay on top of it and believe in yourself and get another shot and make something happen.
Well, what was the pinnacle or the highlight of your career in Cincinnati? I remember at one point in time, Corey Dillon, the running back, set an NFL record for rushing yards one of your years, and I think in that particular game you started. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, that was in 2000. I backed up a great player, and if we wouldn't have been so bad all those years, boy, Richie Bram was one heck of a football player. He was a good friend of mine and a really a great center. Just happened to be on some bad teams, and otherwise, I think he would seriously be regarded as one of the better centers in the league. And he played a very long time, but he was out that year for injury, missed several games, I think over half the season maybe. And so I started him those games. And yeah, Corey Dillon broke Walter Payton's single game rushing record, and he rushed for like 278 yards on 21 or 22 carries. It was against the number 2 rush defense in the league at the time, the Denver Broncos. And we rushed for over 400 yards, the most yards rushing in a game, in an NFL game, in over 50 years. We won the game, but I think we passed for less than 30 yards.
Oh, really?
Doesn't happen. That's crazy.
That's the fine print.
Yeah, I can't believe. I would venture to say that nobody's rushed for more yards in a game since then. I mean, I know that the single game individual record has been broken, but rushing for over 400 plus yards in an NFL game doesn't really happen these days anymore.
No, the game's changed quite a bit. It's become a 7-on-7 league more than a 3 yards in a cloud of dust like it used to be. Okay, so Brock, primarily through your career, you were like the number 1 backup at center on most of the teams you were on, and you were, whether you realized it or not then, if you realized it then, I know you realize it now. You were like one transaction away from getting cut. Okay.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Right, because anytime you're not the starter, you're really on the chopping block, even though you don't feel like you're on the chopping block because you get a paycheck every couple of weeks and you're one of the guys. But it takes a special relationship and connection with you and your coach to maintain that position. What was it that you had that allowed you to play 10 years? And yes, you started a lot of games, and you had 1 year in San Francisco where you started 15 games, but you were able to stay in the NFL, that stands for not for long, for a decade without really having the insurance policy of a big contract. How did you do that?
I think without a doubt it's trust. Having a coach and an offensive staff that trust you. There's sexier guys out there that could run faster, lift more weights, more agile, all of those things. But you have to have a mental skill set as well, and being able to understand an offense at the center position, as you know, you're directing the rest of the offensive line. I mean, you need to know what everybody's doing, and that allowed me to make up for some of my shortcomings as an athlete, and to kind of cheat the system a little bit, because I know where I could position myself, because I knew the entire offense. I knew the routes. I knew the reads the quarterback was using, where he was throwing hot, and all of those things. So I'm not the only one, but that's what kept me around. They knew that if I had to go in and play, or they could count on me to start, because I wouldn't get a quarterback killed. I wouldn't miss an assignment. That's not to say I never missed an assignment, but would go in there and not miss a block and get a running back blown up, or get a quarterback injured. And it's just a level of trust. I mean, if they know that they could stick me in and I can get the job done, I may not knock somebody off the ball 15 yards on a running play, but I certainly would get the job done. I think that's what it was. I mean, you got to make yourself really hard to get rid of. And back then I also was pretty good at that was back when you could do the wedge on kickoff return, man. So if I wasn't starting, I was locking elbows and running at a guy that weighed 285 pounds that was running, a 4.7 or a 4.8 down the field, trying to blow people up and make the team as a D lineman. So, or on a linebacker. So I was able to do that, and we had some pretty good return teams when I was playing as well. So just, man, the more you can do, and that's certainly applies in the NFL, but it applies in life too. So I don't know. I think that's the number one reason, is that I was smart, I knew the system, and coaches trusted me. That's more than one reason, really. But they all kind of boil down to the same thing. That's kind of the way I see it, Craig.
Well, Brock, I had numerous conversations with Coach Alexander over the years, and I've asked him a couple times, what was it about you? And he said, this is what he said. He said, I knew he wasn't going to make a mental mistake, and I could live with his physical limitations. And that's a credit to your mental, because whether players realize it or not, you could take the most athletic, uber-linked, unbelievable player that's 22. By the time he's 27, 29, he's not going to be like he used to be.
Correct.
And so if that player's making mental mistakes, they trade him in for a newer model.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if a player is reliable, consistent, dependable, they know he knows what to do. Now, he may not be able to you may have to reach, you may have to do something where you got to be a little bit more athletic, and maybe sometimes you're not going to get there, but coaches would rather have physical limitations than mental limitations.
Yeah, because you have to have a certain level of athletic ability to even be there. So, and like I said too, to be able to cheat a little bit in certain situations because you know what's coming down the line. And the other thing too that I didn't really touch on is I could probably count on one hand the number of practices I missed once when the regular season started, and that's playing through 3 broken vertebrae. That's playing through broken ankle. They put in a cast. That is playing through broken fingers and thumb and wrist. I mean, you name it. You got to have some durability as well, and it can hurt you the older you get, because when you limit yourself physically because you're not at 100%. They don't care if you say you can play. You got to be able to play 100%. There's no excuses at that point. But I think too, there's the durability piece of it as well. They knew that I was going to show up every practice and get after it. And like I said, I'm not the flashiest guy, but I'm there every day and pack my lunchbox, buddy.
You did. Let's talk about discipline. You've been a coach. You've coached your daughter's softball team. You've coached lots of stuff as post NFL career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's certain things you're looking for, certain attributes and traits you're looking for in your players, and certain disciplines. What was the discipline that you had that allowed you to stay healthy, recover, deal with draft day challengers? They're bringing in draft day challengers every year. What was your edge? What was the thing that you did?
I don't know, man. I think we've talked about this before, but I wish I could tell you that I just had lived such a clean life with an amazing diet and stayed away from everything but just training and all of those things, but that would be a complete bold-faced lie. So I don't know what my one discipline was other than treating every practice, every snap, whether it was practice or the game, like it was your last one. Meetings, whether I went out with the guys the night before during the off season, when you show up for work, it is all in all the time. And that's run into the ball until the whistle blows of every single snap of every single practice. And not letting any of the outside noise, right? There's all that outside noise, especially today. I can't imagine how these guys do it now. All this outside noise. I mean, there was outside noise before, but now everybody with a cell phone can voice at so-and-so and tell them what they think about them. That's a lot. But the one thing was just shut all that stuff out. They're bringing in guys to replace you. I'm not stupid. I can see that. They're drafting a guy to replace you. Bring them on, man. Bring them on, because when we line up, or when I'm going against that first round or second round defensive lineman that's, trying to make a name for himself, when we line up, you're going to get my best every single time you line up. And I'm going to chew your leg off until the whistle blows. And guys will tell you, I mean, I got a lot of friends in the NFL, and they'll tell you that about me, that they just hated going to practice because I was always upbeat and ready to go. And that's probably the biggest discipline, the fact that I love football. And just being up for every chance you get to go and take a snap is, that's running sprints after practice. That's up there. No, never let anybody see you bent over. I always tell, I coach high school softball, like you said, and we run conditioning. I get so mad when kids like lean over or get on a knee. It's just ridiculous. All you're doing is showing the other people on your team that you're weak mentally. Get up, stand up. You're going to pass out before you die. That's what coaches always used to tell us when we were kids, right? Yeah. So stand up and take it like a man or a woman or however you want to phrase it and get going. And then when you're done, go around behind the locker room and throw up. But don't ever let anybody see you do that when practice is on. I mean, you can't then somebody's got an edge on you. So I don't know. I always had a chip on my shoulder. I always thought that everybody thought they were better than me. And most of them were, but I just would never admit that, right?
Yeah, well, they were watching you on Sundays from their couch.
Correct.
When you were continuing to play, and they had their 3.3 games.
Absolutely. So, I saw a lot of them come and go. At the end, it was me and Willie Anderson, the first-round pick and the no-round pick out of that rookie class. That was all that was left. Kind of crazy.
Brock was still standing. Okay, so who was the most influential in your life in terms of establishing your mindset that helped you be successful in the NFL? Was it your father? Was it a middle school coach? Was it a high school coach? Who was the guy that influenced you the most, and what did he influence you about?
Well, I may get a little choked up here, Craig, but it's without a doubt my dad was. He was pretty hard on me as a kid growing up, and he just taught me that don't be a pussy. Get up and get in there and get after it. That's just the way it was. And he was a huge influence in my life and the way that he lived his life and worked, how hard he worked, and his support for me. I count on probably one hand the amount of games he missed that I started, and that's from 4th grade or 5th grade on. He didn't miss anything until I got in the NFL, and then when I was in San Francisco, it was pretty far to travel. But other than that, that guy was there, and I think, honestly, that's why coaches didn't bother me. You're a coach, you can yell at me. It just didn't bother me. Some guys would get offended by it. Some guys, he can't talk to me like that. Never bothered me. There was never a coach that was going to be harder on me than my dad was. So, for me, I thank him for that, because I don't think I would have made it. There was times when I'd call him and just be like, man, I don't know, man. We talk about it, and he taught me, I tell this to my daughter and my son and my players and stuff. I remember when I was wrestling in 6th, 7th grade, and I'd get so nervous, and he would just look at me and he'd say, hey, man, don't be nervous, which makes zero sense, but it makes all the sense in the world, because what do you got to be nervous about? He'd always tell me, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. He breathes air. He's a man. What's the difference? He's not a god. And then I would always play that over in my head. I mean, this guy across from me, he puts his helmet on the same way I do. He pulls his pads on the same way I do. He bleeds, so I would always think about that kind of thing, and nothing, when you think things are bad, they can always get worse, and you just got to keep going. And I thank him for that, because he literally was the biggest influence in my life. I mean, there's coaches and things like that who I had that were instrumental, but nothing like him. And he never even coached me. We just lived in the same house for 18 years. You know what I mean?
Well, he coached you. He just didn't coach you in the sport.
Right. Exactly. 100% true. So
well, I would like to say rest in peace to your mom and dad. I know they were involved in an accident a handful of years ago, but had the privilege to meet your parents multiple times down in Cincinnati at games, and he's wearing jersey number 62, I think it was. Yeah,
we buried him with all 3 of my jerseys, man. He wore those things everywhere, and I would always tell him, man, don't wear your jersey to Buffalo this weekend. And you know what he would tell me? Or Philly, Dad, maybe wear a sweatshirt over the jersey this week at Philly. He's like, there's not enough goddamn fans in the stands to make me not wear this jersey. I'll take them all on. That was his mentality, man. And he wasn't kidding when he said it. There wasn't enough people there. He got in a few fights. He got in a fight at Cleveland. He pretty funny. He was certainly proud, and he was a big influence in my life. So yes, rest in peace, Pops.
Amen. Okay, so you're in your mid-40s now, and if you could go back and tell your 22-year-old self, 23-year-old self, before you ventured into the NFL, knowing what you know now, and obviously you're a much wiser young man than you were then, what would you tell yourself? And it also goes in line with, hey, there's a young man at Central Michigan or somewhere else that's, perhaps looking at the 2020 draft. What do you know now that you wish you would have known then that you can share with them?
Oh man, I think what I would tell myself is take it a little more seriously. Not that I didn't take it seriously, but I mean, I never passed up on going out to a party and having beers with the guys, you know what I mean? Maybe if I would have done a little less of that and trained a little bit more, specific things, I would have been a little better. And I don't know if it would have helped me play longer. I mean, 10 years is a long time, but maybe I would have got paid a little bit more. I don't know, but I don't know if I want to trade those experiences either, if you know what I mean, Craig.
Absolutely. Well, here's the deal. I don't think anybody.
Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. I got to interrupt this. I got to tell the people out there listening that you did
easy.
Oh, no, I know. But you made the All-Pro first team almost every year for the party team.
For sure, dude. And first team all best looking center every year too, baby. Although the competition, not a lot of competition there. Yes, I did. But great times, and I wouldn't trade any of that because those are memories that are, money comes and money goes. But I would probably tell myself to take it a little bit more seriously because at the time, you're just doing what you always did. You always played football. You always went to practice. You always hung out with the guys. All of those things you always did, but you don't realize it's a job until later in life. Or, maybe when you're like 28, 29, you're like, wait a minute, this is my job. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that could even make any sense.
It makes sense, but here's one thing that I think that's happened. I think the business of football has changed.
No doubt.
It's changed in college too. And,
no doubt.
It used to be you get a scholarship to college. It's a free pass to have fun with the girls and parties and everything else. And it's not like that anymore. Coaches
it should be, though, Craig. It should be because all those kids that go there and take it so seriously, a fraction of them are going to get a chance to play in the NFL. I see it all the time, these guys that get work out for my pro day, and I want to tell them, dude, just go have fun, man. You have no chance.
Yeah,
but I would have been pissed. I would have been pissed if somebody would have told me that. You know what I mean? So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. That is the case. Sometimes I wish it was still these guys were still having as much fun as I had. Maybe they are. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I had a hell of a lot of fun.
I don't think they are having two boys playing college football. It's a business, and obviously a lot of the players being a color commentator, and you talk to those guys, and you see the coaches in college football making so much money these days that they have so much pressure on them to win that with the scholarship limitations, if a young man isn't ready, he's not developing like they were hoping, doesn't have a good football IQ like they were expecting him to have, they're just asking these guys to leave, and asking
they
them
are asking them to leave. They're running them off. Absolutely.
They're pushing them into the portal. Basically, hey, bro, hey, we love you, but, man, you got to go somewhere else because we need your spot.
Yeah, you are not going to play if you stay here. You have zero chance to play.
Yes. And as a consequence, it becomes a job. It's really a job for these guys. And so, as you mentioned, maybe it didn't become vividly clear to you until you were 28, 29. I think it's starting to become more clear now in college at 19.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You can definitely see that. I think
there's more pressure on the players. I think, there's pressure to go to the league. There's pressure to win. The coach is either wanting a new contract or wanting a new school that's going to pay him a bigger contract. So everybody's on the move.
Yeah, that's for sure. I had the luxury of playing for a college head coach that's now in the College Football Hall of Fame and had coached here for 2 decades. And, and he's still around the area. I see him all the time, and he retired after my 3rd year. And, that Central had that. That Central Michigan had that. They had Herb Durame. He was in charge, and he won a bunch of championships. And you knew if you were coming here, you knew what kind of offense you were running, and it was blah, blah, blah. But that's extremely rare in today's football world.
Yeah, coaches come to Central Michigan now to either climb to another position or die. You know,
Yep.
it's one or the other. You don't stay.
I agree.
And that's nothing against Central. It's the way the MAC is. It's all non-Power 5 schools. In the D1, they're climbing schools, and if you can't be successful there, you're now no longer considered really a viable head coach.
Correct.
So,
I would
okay.
agree with you. It's too bad.
All right, so I'm not going to ask you about your pre-drink routine because I don't know if you had one, but let's go to your pre-snap routine, okay? And maybe you didn't have one of those either, all right? But to the best of your recollection, you know, how did you approach one-on-ones and one-on-one period? How did you approach, you know, when you were in the Corey Dillon game and, you know, everybody knew he had 250 yards trying to get to 290. What was walk us through, you get the play call and you're turning around to run to the line of scrimmage. What was going through your mind?
Nothing changed. I mean, you can't change it in that game or any other game. It's just, you know, under Coach Alexander, it was repetition. It was, you know, he taught a system where the backs and the line were on the same angle on the snap of the ball. So you would work on, you know, over and over again. And that is the only way you can, in times of fatigue and stress and everything else, muscle memory takes over. And it's a great way to coach offensive linemen because you get up to the line as a center, you break the huddle, and you see what defense is out there, and then you make your calls accordingly. And then you get ready, you put your hand on the ball, you get ready for the snap, and the quarterback goes through his cadence, and then you see what the defense does. You know, if they're rotating the safety, if they're, you know, where the blitz is coming from, because that's, you know, you find the mic and set your protection if it's a pass play, or you find the mic and get your run blocking in the right direction that it needs to go. And is a safety dropping down in the box, so you have to account for him and replace and go get one extra guy, and there'll be a call for that. And then as the snap gets ready the ball gets ready to be snapped, if there's nothing else that needs to be adjusted, you go. And I mean, you do that over and over and over and over again. It just becomes second nature. But I think what separates, you know, the mentally tough players from the not mentally tough players is when goal line situations, hostile away games, when it's so loud and you can't talk, you can't communicate that way. Being able to process all of that in a quick manner and not make a mistake, because you make a mistake, you can't go back and correct it. There's no time and it's too loud. So being able to process all of those things and then going on about your business, I mean, that's the progression right there. So having those things drilled into you where you don't have to think about them. You know that if you got to reach block a guy that's a wide shaded nose, you know what step you're taking with that first step on the snap of the ball. You know, is it a gun snap and you got to run block to your left, the ball usually ends up, you know, going to the right on the snap. So you got to remember that. All those things you've done so many times that they all happen in a blink of an eye. And those guys that can process all of that are the ones that have long careers and stick around a little bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And what you're basically saying there is you've got unconscious competence about your job.
Absolutely.
You're on autopilot. So nothing phases you because, you know, it doesn't matter if there's 40,000 fans in the stands or 140,000. It doesn't matter if it's fourth down and goal and the game's on the line. You're just doing your job.
It's irrelevant, yeah. And if you can categorize that and wipe all the other things away and just focus on the task at hand, that's the only way you can survive. Now, sometimes that's easier said than done. Sometimes that happens easier without conscious thought. And sometimes, you know, when athletes say they're in the zone, when you're in the zone as an offensive lineman, it's all slow. You can see everything before it happens. You see the safety creeping. You see the corner coming off the edge, or you see the linebacker. If you watch enough film, you see that middle linebacker start to take two steps to his right, and you know that it's the Sam strong safety coming off of that edge, or you got a blood cross with a mic in the A gap and the backside linebacker, and because you know that all that stuff, right? And you know your body just does it because you've drilled it so many times. That's why I think like some guys don't practice well but you throw him in a high-pressure situation, and you're like, oh, this guy's not that bad because he's mentally able to handle it all, and it's all muscle memory, and his footwork seems better when it's under live situations. So I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Absolutely, but vice versa. Some guys are great practice players.
Absolutely.
They clutch in the games.
Absolutely, without question. And that takes me back to my previous point about why I was able to stick around, because of that reason. The only reason I got game reps in my first preseason game, my rookie year, was because the starting center was out for all training camp. So I played a whole second half. And if I would have had to base me making the team or not just on my practice, there's zero chance I make that team. But I go in that game and I graded out 100% in the second half against the Indianapolis Colts in my first game. Did I dominate? Hell no. But fundamentally, in doing my assignment, yes. That's the only reason. If I would have only played like 2 series at the end, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
All right, Brock. So you played with 4 organizations. Who's the guy that you might even still be friends with that you respect the most? Just the way he handled his business, how he handled his career, how he got the most out of his body. He can't, excluding you, the most out of his body and the most out of his career because of how he handled his business.
One of the guys that I'm closest to, that I played with a little bit in Cincinnati, a couple of years in Cincinnati. He was a very high draft pick, played defensive end, and then stayed in touch the rest of my career when I was in San Fran. And then he ended up going to San Fran. He played 14 years, okay? So it's two very different career paths, right? Undrafted, me, him drafted 4th pick overall. It's Justin Smith, truly a great football player, a true 3-down defensive end. I mean, if you know football and you've watched it in the last 10 years, you know who the guy is. Played for 2 teams, but that guy played the way I played, except he was way better athletically, and all of those other attributes that I kind of lacked in, he had, but he also had the mental toughness. He also had a little bit of craziness to him, probably a lot of craziness to him, and he ended up playing 14 years, played in a Super Bowl, and really had a fantastic career. Basically, we're a lot alike, very similar in the aspect of, from the mental standpoint, but different than paths we took to get there and our physical ability throughout the course of our career. And I'm sure you know who he is, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I certainly respect everything he did while he was playing.
No, he was a hell of a player, came out of Missouri, and was a culture changer in San Francisco.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else. I mean, I played against him when I was in San Francisco, when he was still with Cincinnati, and I played against him when I was in Detroit when he was still in Cincinnati. I think he got to San Fran like in 06. Yeah, maybe 07. So I played against him, and just sitting in the room, game planning, everybody was like, how are we going to account for this guy? And when we were in Cincinnati, he was the only guy you worried about from a defensive standpoint. You worried about him as an offensive lineman and him rushing the passer. That's what because he had a motor, he played hard all the time, he went to the whistle, he never missed practice, he never missed games. He played on, 1st and 10, he played on the 3rd and long, he played on 3rd and short, 4th down goal line, everything. He was a football player, man, all the way around, and I liked the way he played football, had a ton of respect for him, both as a friend and as a guy playing against him. And he loved the game of football. I mean, if you could be on the field when he was out there, he's a funny dude, and he loved competing and having fun, and he's a nut job, no doubt about it.
The best football players are nut jobs.
Amen, baby. You got to have a little, I don't know, but, you always, coaches will tell you too, like, he's kind of a Budweiser player, or he's this kind of a player, but you need a couple Jack Daniels guys on your team too if you're going to be any good. You need a couple of crazy dudes.
That's for sure. Okay, so let's go back, and I know you mentioned about some of these injuries. You mentioned about getting cut after you were told you were going to make it. What's the biggest adversity, high school, college, or pro, that you had to deal with, and how did you overcome it?
Well, yeah. I mean, just the fact that I wasn't drafted. I mean, that's adversity. I think the adversity is just. I don't know if this makes sense, but having to believe in yourself when nobody else believed in you. Having to.
Oh my God, Brock. Okay, so let me take a detour here and just hit on that point. It's so easy to believe in yourself when everyone else does too.
Absolutely.
But when you got to cut against the grain and you believe in yourself, in spite of your circumstances, your draft status, your contract, your standing in the team, all those things, it is extremely difficult.
I will tell you something. Go ahead, finish that.
No, you go. I'm good.
In 1999, I'd been cut in 98 and brought back twice in Cincinnati. In 1999, that training camp, Paul told the guy that was drafted to be the starter eventually, and me, pulled us in the room and said, we're keeping one of you, we're cutting the other one, you're going to get equal reps, so on and so forth. So as camp's going on, I start getting less and less reps. And then really I was just only getting 13 reps because, they don't keep 3 centers. They keep 1.5 really. So I went up to Paul, and I remember it just like it was yesterday, and I said, what's going on? Why are my reps getting cut? And he said, well, if we had to cut today, we'd cut you. And I said, well, then let me play some guard. Give me some reps at guard. Let me win a job somewhere else as a swing guy. And he's like, nope, we can't. He's like, you're only gonna play center, and if we had to cut tonight, you'd be cut. So then, I mean, how are you supposed to feel?
Now,
after
did you punch him, or did you?
No, I'm just like, well, that's bullshit. So you know what? I just every day, I told my dad about the conversation. He just said, keep your head down and keep fighting. So I did. I kept my head down. I kept fighting. I didn't make waves. I didn't complain. I didn't transfer. I just kept fighting. And the first preseason game, we played the Colts again. And right before the game, we'd already come off the field for warm-ups. Right before the game, he grabs me. He said, hey, you're playing second quarter at right guard, third quarter at center, fourth quarter at left guard. And I said, what the F? I said, you told me I hadn't taken a single rep at guard. Not a single rep. Not even a one-on-one pass pro at guard. And he threw me in there. And I said, that's BS. And he's like, go make it happen. So I went out there, and that's what happened. I played right guard, center, left guard, right guard, center, across the board, okay? But when that happened, this guy that was there, he also replaced me on special teams. He was getting all the reps at kickoff return. And after the first rep at kickoff return, he came off the field and told Paul, my knees are killing me. I can't play the rest of today. He took himself out of the game. So if you keep fighting to keep your head down and overcome that type, when everybody, even your coach is telling you that you're not going to make the team, how do you go to practice the next day? How do you put that behind you and focus on going to practice and, oh, by the way, having a good practice, even though you know you're not going to be there? That was a huge bit of adversity. And the interesting thing is that guy that was the first preseason game, he never stepped on the field ever again in a Bengals uniform. He got cut, the final cuts, and never heard from him again. I never had anything to lose. Be very aware and cautious of the man that has nothing to lose, Craig. I was told that a long time ago. I had nothing to lose. So, it's, yes, he could have just said, hey, man, I don't really know what they're thinking. I don't have anything to tell you when I asked him. But he didn't. He told me, you're losing. In his own way, he said, you're losing. You better fix it. So, I thank him for that. That was not easy to do, man. That's not easy to do.
Well, in this day and age, most coaches don't tell the truth.
Agreed.
They don't. They BS the players, and they tell the players what they want to hear. And if we recap that conversation you had with Coach in 2019, it would be something like, hey, man, you're good. Hey, we're just giving him more reps because he's a rookie. We know you know. We got you.
Yeah. No, I know. I agree. That's a guy I wouldn't play for. I don't know. It would be very difficult to play for a guy like that. They expect you to be honest, right?
Oh, they want you to tell the truth. And they want you to play when you're hurt, but, it's not a two-way street, unfortunately. Yep, okay, Brock, that's real stuff right there, because with what I'm about and what I've learned and what I teach my new clients is, belief is one of the most important cornerstones of your career, because you got to believe when no one else does.
There's no doubt about it. Like you said earlier, too, it's real easy to believe in yourself when you're going to Pro Bowls and winning Super Bowls and everything's going great, right?
It's easy to believe when you're the biggest kid on the field, when you're the fastest. And all the kids that go to college are that guy in high school, and then when they go to college, they've got to reinvent themselves again. And then some of them become the fastest, the best, and all that stuff in college. And then when they go to the pros, they got to do it again.
Got to do it all over, man.
But I think one of the things that would be a great laboratory for psychologists is a 90-man roster that everybody knows is going to go to 53. And of course, there's the Tom Brady's and the Jared Goffs and the different guys. Everybody knows is going to be on that 53, but there's at least 60 guys that could go either way.
Yeah.
And how do they respond to their reps? How do they respond to their coaching? How do they respond to the negative media coverage or no media coverage? And when the media guys start talking about, hey, these are the guys that are going to make the 53, they're going to keep 7-0 linemen, this is who it's going to be, and you're not one of them.
I've been there many times.
Right? And so yeah. I really feel like the biggest challenge that NFL players have is their own mind.
100%, 100% agree with you.
It's not their competition. It's themselves.
Agreed.
Okay.
I see it every day. I see it right now. You see it too. I mean, it's I see it with high school kids. It's 100% what's in their mind.
No doubt. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Everything that you learned playing football for many, many years, everything you learned from your pops, you learned from your coaches, you learned at all different levels of playing football. And you were a wrestler, if I remember correctly, in high school. You were a pretty good wrestler. What have you been able to take from that into your post-NFL career in sales?
I had this conversation with a guy today that played at Central Michigan and played in the NFL for a little bit, played in Canada for a long time, and he's interviewing for a job and whatnot. And I tell this to a lot of people when they call me for advice and those kind of things. What do I take away? I mean, I take just in business. I'm in sales and in business, and I focus and I try to approach it just like I did when I'm at training camp. I'm competing with another person in business or another person and just trying to sell this particular thing to somebody, and it's win at all costs, work harder than the other person, focus. That's another thing that people don't do. They don't focus. When you're a football player, you got to focus on being a football player, not being on Dancing with the Stars or whatever else is out there. You're a football player. Focus on that and be the best you can be. And then the rest will happen after football when you decide to be done. But I think the one thing that I take away is just being focused and grinding every single day. I always equate everything to football, just trying to get a first down. Do we move the ball today? Do we move the ball? And I talk to my sales team. Do we move the ball? Did we get a first down today? Did we score? Did we get the PO? Did we get the order? Those kind of things. And just, I don't know why it always goes back to that, but you revert to what you know, and that's what I know, and just trying to approach all of those things that I've done post-football to how I approach the football side of it, and that's just compete like it's the last thing you're ever going to do in your life. And if you continuously do that and focus on what you did to make you succeed when you were playing football, and that's just don't get outworked, don't get out-hustled by the guy next to you that you're competing against, if that makes sense.
It makes lots of sense. And I'd be, Brock, I want to thank you very much for your time today. And I want to tell the audience that I have a son that plays college football that's named Brock. And I actually named him after you, not because of, anything other than the type of person you are and how you overcome the odds. You beat the odds. And I attached that success to the name Brock. And so when I had a son that was born in 1998, I talked my wife into naming him Brock.
Well, that's pretty dang humbling, Craig. And I know that you named him after me, but I didn't know that it was for those reasons. So I got to be honest with you. pretty humbling. That makes me feel pretty good. I hope I can live up to that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Pro Mindset. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. 5 stars, of course. You can follow us on our website, promindsetpodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pro Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time.